Hello, friends. It's a special day. It's Asian New Year's. Well, not really Asian. It's Lunar New Year because the Japanese don't celebrate the same time. All right. Today, our topic is how to increase your power of persuasion without being manipulative. So I've been pondering this topic for a while, and I just wanted to share with you just some of my insights. I invite your insights as well so we could help each other. As mum, most of the people listening and participating are mothers. Um, we have children that we teach, and we have husbands that we want to support. And sometimes we feel like we're nagging or we sound like a broken record, right? But how do we do it better so that we're more effective? Okay. So, my this is backstory. My dad, um, he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, so to speak, with his mum for all his life, pretty much. Um, and it just kind of got worse and worse over the years. And now he's cutting off relations with her. And so, the family, the people are just sad and grieved that he is um, estranged from her. So when I came back to Australia, I thought, that's his problem, you know. But I watched my mum and she's just snagging, and so, you just make up with her, be nice, she's old, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched and observed for the last 6 months, and I thought, she's making things worse. I've just felt this inspiration. Maybe I should step in and help out, and I prayed about it and I thought, is this my place? And I felt this inspiration that you came home to heal the family. And I thought, oh boy, big responsibility. Um, anyways, when I stepped into that space, I felt upheld. I felt inspired and I felt confident. And one of the first things I did was to tell my mum, don't continue telling dad stuff and please stop nagging. And she's like, well, I don't nag. I just tell him this and he won't listen. I said, Mum, if you say it, you need to say it tactfully. Otherwise, don't say stuff at all. She's like, okay. She's so happy. She's like, can you help? I'm like, I'm going to try. And she was so happy, and, when I give her feedback like that, she doesn't get offended. And she's like, but I just say it this way, this way, this way. And I said, well, you know what? That way, that's nagging and that's manipulative, right? And she's like, oh, I didn't realize. So I said, yeah, that's manipulative. So I said, let me do it back to you. So I said, Mum, if I say to you, oh, you're this way, this way, this way. Here's all the things that's wrong with you. Um, and you really ought to change, would you do it? And she's like, no. I said, if somebody were to say that to you, maybe with your cooking, with, whatever. And she's like, no. I'm like, you're a pleaser, but in the end, you still feel that, like, I don't want to do it because just because you told me to do it, I'm going to do the opposite, contrary. So there's this natural tendency in our human soul to own our power of choice, our autonomy. We fight for our autonomy. And, that's really important to remember because, pretty much all the humans will fight back and they know for sure that it's wrong, but they will do it anyways because fighting for their agency is innate. Right. So I said, look, you're pushing him further and further and further away to the point where he's cut off his left finger, right? He's being so critical of his mom, he's cut off relationships. And she's like, oh, I can see that now. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to try and work with him and you just stay out of it. And she's like, I'll pay you money. And I'm like, are you sure? I was just teasing her. But yeah, she was really serious. Um, anyways, I just sat with him whenever he comes home. I loved on him. We had just conversation. I mean, we always do, but now I have a very strong goal. So what I try to do was show him the vision of greater happiness, the vision of unity. So I didn't go straight to the point. I wanted to teach him, and like not necessarily condescendingly teach, but just kind of open his eyes to unity equals greatest happiness and greatest peace. And I started with his finger. Um, I started teaching him about, germs and how germs is a physical representation of darkness because he kept on getting infections. Um, and so I said, you're holding on to dark energy, because he allowed me to work on his finger, right? And so I'm like, this is allowing you to hold dark energy. He said, Dad, what kind of dark energy are you holding on to? Like, I know, right? But I wanted him to explore it himself and see it for himself because we can't see what we're experiencing sometimes, okay? So he's like, yeah, I see. And I said, the pointy finger is about criticism. What are you criticizing? And then I did the Otovi scanner, and the oils that came up was all about love, right? Receiving love, giving love. And I'm like, I know that's going to happen. That's going to come up. It's very obvious. But it all confirmed, and he got to look at it, and I got to explain it to him. And he sat there, and he's a ponderer. So you tell him things and he thinks about it and then he answers, but then he takes the next couple of days to let it sink in. So I know that about him. Um, so yeah, I just kind of like sat down and did, a session with 3 oils and a couple of emotions. So anyways, it was just to the point where he was happy. So, a few days, few weeks go by and he's just happier and happier and happier. And my mom's like, did you succeed? Did you tell him to like make up with his mom? Did you succeed? I'm like, Mom, this takes a while. Um, we can't just like flat out tell him off. So anyways, yeah, he got to the point where he was like, let's celebrate our family. You guys came home, your siblings are happy and everyone's good. Let's have parties. And I'm like, oh, great idea, Dad. His father's death anniversary came, and he wasn't ready to invite the rest of the family in. And this is interesting because our family was the hub of the clan. People come here, and that's something that it's a tradition we're all used to, and so it's just feeling sad and something amiss because they don't come here because he doesn't invite them. So anyways, that came and went, and people were like, oh, wish we could have had that unity celebration together at this house. But anyways, New Year's came along, and we started hanging up lanterns and things, and we're talking about celebration, and he's like, yeah, I love celebrating here, and I love the kids and grandkids. And then my sister slipped in, and she slipped it in, and she's like, oh, we should invite the rest of the family. We miss them and all that stuff. And then anyways, she said that, and he didn't have a comeback. And then she changed subjects, and she saw that he was slightly uncomfortable, but it looked like he accepted it. So anyways, we continued with the preparation celebrations for the last week. Anyways, as soon as I told Mom, I said, yep, it's happening. And she was like, could not believe it. She was so happy. She hugged and kissed and screamed, and she's like, I guess I owe you lots and lots of money now. And she was like, I'm gonna get it ready. And I'm like, no, you don't need to pay me. Anyways, she could not sleep till like 4 a.m. She was just so over the moon. And she's like, this is for reals, this is for reals. And yeah, it is for reals. He's happier and his infection healed. So I thought, you know what, he just needed a little spanking from the spirit, the physical body. He just needed to hurt a little bit more, and he was uncomfortable. He had to sit down, and then it gave me an opportunity, a window. And maybe I prayed for that. It happened in this certain way. but at least I felt that inspiration when I saw the opportunity to kind of do that. So this is a pain that's been decades long, and now we've got this miracle. So I feel like, this week when I was, this week, the last couple of weeks in our church, we were reading the Book of Mormon, and it's the first, couple of books in the Book of Mormon. There's a character named Nephi, and he had rebellious siblings, and he used his power of persuasion to talk to him and persuaded them over and over to change, to be more positive. Um, and I thought, yeah, let's talk about this subject. I know we've got loved ones that we really want to help. Some people may want to give up on them and think, you know what, I've tried and nothing's happened and nothing's worked, and so why should I continue? So let's discuss this a little bit more. Okay, how can we do this better? Because I think there's a lot of power that we have that we may not have tapped into. Um, yeah, to support and help them out. And we may feel discouraged, but how do we get over that discouragement and then continue consistently in loving on our loved ones? All right, so that's me talking a lot. What are your thoughts? Anybody? What are your thoughts about using your power of persuasion, increasing your influence um, to help people change? And because we have this energy balancing skill, we have this added, you know, advantage. Yeah. What are your thoughts or experiences?
Okay, this might be a kind of well, it's a little bit silly, a little bit not actually. So I teach early morning scripture study like Jade used to do. I'm doing that now. And we have a little issue with getting people there on time.
Mhm.
And so I've had like a full semester of like trying all these different ways to like encourage them to be there on time. And it's never critical because, like you said, that is probably not the best way. But recently I figured out that I gave them a challenge. Like if they, I hope this is relatable,
Mhm.
that we're looking for a 5-day streak. So all in one week. And the streak is very familiar to them because they like Snapchat streaks, like message streaks, like all these different streaks, like consistent. So, so I'm like, if we have more than half of the class there on time, which I let them choose what on time meant to them, like they got to choose like what's on time then. They chose what's on time, and I secretly give them a little bit of grace, but anyway, and then I text like the whole group every day like congratulations, you're on day 3 of your streak, blah blah, so that has, and we've seen a shift. They haven't earned a full 5 days yet. And even if they haven't, sometimes I'll give like a like, okay, here's this challenge for a makeup day or something like that. But the point is for them to see their success
Mhm.
and to be accountable for it, um, and be responsible for it and know that they can achieve it. So I don't know if that's relatable, but that's what came to my mind first. Like
Uh-huh.
we're helping them change a behavior and see that they can be successful and doing it without like telling them they're doing anything wrong, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. That's awesome. So I love that example, Debbie. I'm sure it can be applied to waking up for school or doing homework or whatever. some of the kids. I think what I picked up from all that is that you spoke their language. You use the word streak. People, that age, they know what
Mhm.
it means. You started where they're at. You went to where what they know, and then found a commonality. Yeah, and then kind of, move them. That's how we teach people. Like, you can't teach them a fresh, start new idea. You need to connect it to something that they previously know. So yeah, we just have to kind of pause and ponder a little bit about, how we can connect to their hearts. They struggle with discipline, and they struggle to understand the importance right now. And, we could, just keep lecturing and teaching that. Um, but it hasn't sunk in. And so while it's sinking in, you're supporting them. You're supporting them in praises, in tracking and stuff, and that's what people need. Um, so in like my dad's situation, or because that situation can be like applied to other people as well. You are consistently loving on them. And sometimes it's hard to love on them because they're so used to hating themselves, and you feel it, and they're so bitter about the world, and they just push back so much. But we really have to have that clear vision, and see through them, and find the cracks to like enter, because they do have those soft spots that you need to kind of find. But yeah, they're pushing back because they don't feel like they deserve love. They're rebellious. Their behavior is ugly, because they believe they're not much. They're not important. They're not whatever. And so having that six fundamental human needs in the back of the mind, knowing that they need to be loved, they need to be important, you know, um, you can talk to that. I remember telling him one of the things that I really love and appreciate about him is that he was always giving me an opportunity to share my ideas and thoughts, and he never shut me down. And then it, triggered an idea, triggered a story for him to say, yeah, yeah, like this one girl down the street, her parents, cut her down whenever she, made the suggestion that she might, be able to buy a house. I mean, she's married with kids, right? And so she's telling her parents, I think I want to marry, I want to get a house, and and the parents like, oh, you can't afford it, and too much, da 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 da. And then my dad, on the other hand, same age as her parents, were like, you can do it, and this break it down, and this is how much you can pay a month, and da, da, da. And so she gave her so much confidence. Anyway, she's like, can you adopt me? And I said, Dad, like so many of my friends wanted you to adopt them, when I was growing up. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, so kind of helping him see that he's important and he's done a great job in the world, because I think he's blinded by how much he sucks, because mum doesn't love me. I'm so bitter towards her, so I'm not lovable, and I'm not worth much. And for us, we just have to help them see the eternal perspective, and um, just with love. And I think, Debbie, you were like unattached to and objective. So you weren't like, I'm going to be so mad at them if they don't, have a streak, right? That's manipulative. So anytime people feel attached to the outcome, you're being manipulative. It can be, I'm mad at you, I'm not going to talk to you. Anger is, in and of itself, slightly manipulative. It's funny because anger is linked closely to unforgiveness, and unforgiveness is this energy of, this is who you are, and I'm going to box you in, and I'm not going to let you change. So this holds them back from repentance, and this is why it's so important that we learn to forgive others. Yeah. So if we forgive them, we give them this freedom to be different, to change. When we are angry and unforgiving, we're sending that energy, and it keeps on boxing them in. I just feel like, we're the one that's restricting them as well. And I see the wisdom in the Lord saying that, your job is to forgive and forgive everyone. and my job will be to judge people, right? So we don't need to do that. Yeah. So that's awesome. I love the things that the principles that came up, right? Being understanding, just taking a moment to say, if I were them, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And why do I do this? Right. So Debbie's early morning scripture students, well, they don't see the value. They're tired, their brain's growing and their body's growing, and so they need sleep. They don't have an ability to manage time yet. They, are still learning how to be self-disciplined. Yeah. And, they just need love, lots of love and lots of support. They can't be this independent adult yet, and they don't need to be. And so here's this person that keeps supporting them and tracking their progress. And that's beautiful.
I think part of what you said really hit a chord with me. It's instilling, like, you find the thing or the things that they'll be able to see about themselves and instill confidence in those things.
Yeah.
It's like it's like bridging the gap from
Yeah.
where they are to where we
Yeah.
want them to go.
Yeah. So helping them interpret, helping them put meaning to the things that they do. Um, so if we don't, sometimes they get default meaning, and sometimes it's negative, right? So like, yeah, my dad helped this this friend and this other friend of mine when her dad left, and he was abusive and everything, and he left, and she came over to our house a lot, and she told me recently, actually, she's like, your family kind of took me in, and she's like, for all these years, I never thanked you. So that was a really hard time in my life, and your family just took me in, and we did stuff together. We went, for long, long walks and things, and she did. She said, I did remember asking your dad to adopt me. I'm like, yeah. And so I thought, okay, I'll bring that up again. And you know, just bringing that um, experience and then tying it to this is successful. The meaning you should give this experience is you are a successful person. You are an important person in people's lives, right? And then it's like, oh, I guess I am, right? Because it could be, man, that's nothing, that's little, right? And reducing yourself. Um, and when they've really started to internalize it, when they give you more examples of the same thing. So I think after a little while, we talk for hours, and this is not just an overnight thing, but because we're long suffering, right? One time he's like, your brother, when he first started investing in more houses, I just thought, you know what? If it's a mistake, then he'll have to bear it. But if he's made a choice, I'm going to support it. And he's like, go for it, son. He's like, I never asked him how much money he makes. I never asked him how he's going to be able to pay it back. Nothing. He just, went for it. And he did, and he was successful. And he said, look, your mum and I, we went over, we helped renovate the house for free. We did all we can, looked around and just checked the things that need to be done. And we just did it all without Ken needing to necessarily know about it. Like to Debbie having a little bit of grace for them without them knowing. It doesn't matter. God does that for us anyways. But that led to like this next level of confidence. And then it kept on going and going. And he purchased a ton of houses after that. And then, it just kept spiraling because one little confidence, one little success breeds more success. So we want to find, what it is that they've done well and, help them interpret it more positively than what they would have if we left them alone. Yeah. So that's really important for kids, especially our teenagers, when they start comparing themselves to the world, and we're supposed to be, separated, and I mean, just not living in the world without being part of the world kind of deal. So we need to say, this is actually good. Here's actually the evidence that it is good. Yeah. So we do a lot of that discussion, and I'm very passionate about that topic. When the kids look at their friends and I hear about their friends' struggles and things, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about that. We're not judging, but can you identify why they have that issue? Yeah. And so just kind of hold back a little bit and let them explore that. And then that way they learn to interpret things better. They're like, oh, well, because they don't have this understanding that they're a child of God. Yes, yes, that's right. And they need other people to approve them. Yes, yes. They've got friends that are angry, that are doing, substance and sexually active and all sorts of things, just kind of messing their lives up really, really early.
Thank you
And
for
they're
making me
unhappy.
wish you good. You're so welcome.
All right, so we've got understanding, right? Just start with understanding. And, I'd say check your heart to make sure you're objective and unattached. People throw that word around a lot, and I had to kind of explain it to a lot of people. So I'll repeat now. Being able to attach, what you do is you ask yourself, in all these situations, can I still love them? Because my job is to love, right? I don't need them to do anything back for me, as in, I don't need them to love me back, or I don't need them to change. I don't need them to understand. I'll do my best to just, love on them and then leave it at that. So in your mind, if you can say, yes, that's me, right? They will feel that freedom to be themselves. Okay. So that's how you check that you're objective, unattached. Yep. And taking it a notch further, you want to be able to love unconditionally. So we had a discussion with this topic with one of my girls. The the older girls, they've got this relationship with the Lord. The younger ones are, developing it really fast. But yeah, we had a discussion like, I just wish, I feel sorry for them, but I wish I could love them more. So she's talking about, other relatives. And I said, okay, so how do you develop more love for other people? And she's like, well, understanding them. And I said, yeah, great. That's a great place to be. So you're in their shoes, you see why they do what they do. Okay. So it may be annoying from your perspective, but there's a reason behind things. So yeah, great, be understanding. And I said, what else? So she sat there, and then it kind of like light bulb moment for her. She's like, oh, okay. Because it's like stuff that I've already said to her lots of times, and I didn't want to repeat myself again. And she's like, I just need to have a strong relationship with God. Yes. So I said, when you have surplus, when you have so much love, your cup is overflowing. Doesn't matter who it is in front of you, you just have this overwhelming love for them, right? And they don't have to deserve it, and they don't have to do anything, that is conditional. You just love them, and they feel it, and they gravitate towards you. Right. And so I gave her an example. And I said, look, I've got new students this year. I don't know them, right? And they're still sorting out my class. But anyways, we've got a group of kids that they were trying to see if that class works. And in my heart, before I even met them, I've already felt love for them. Like, these are children that Heavenly Father has given me to love on and take care of this year for the 6 hours that I have them. And, I got a brand new student that's actually very low intellectually. He has been in a unit with learning disabilities, but he tested slightly out of it. So he had to be put in mainstream, unfortunately. Anyways, the mum was very anxious. And they gave me all sorts of documents to read about him and all his history and all that. So when I first met him, he was so scared, and I smiled and I loved on him. I talked to him, and, we connected right away. And after the first day, he came home happy. The mom's like, oh, I'm like shocked. I was worried. And I guess he was fine the next couple of days. And, every time I had to go to the office, or I took, my leave, because every teacher a couple of times a week, we're allowed to be released from face to face, and then another teacher comes in and does activities with them. So when I was doing my thing, my prep, he was like, "Where's Mrs. Bolden? Where's Mrs. Bolden?" the whole time. And when I came back, he was like, "Where were you?" And this is a 6-year-old, okay? And I'm like, "I am sorry." But his mom was like, please continue to be his teacher. I'm like, well, I hope so. Let the principal and all the other administrators are going to figure it out. Who goes well with who, according to the kids, whether they play well together, and whether they mesh with the teachers as well. So yeah, and I said, I do hope so. But I can see that relief in the mother. So I told my kids that, like, you just love on these kids, and they love you back. You don't have to love you back, but they respond to you, and that's the best path to take. And I said, look, I didn't know this kid, but it doesn't matter. I loved on him, and it worked. So yeah, it's our responsibility to be loving, right? What else? Anybody else have anything to share? So we talked about being objective, having unconditional love, being unattached to outcome. And like my daughter said, you just have to tap into the Lord, fill up your cup. And then when your cup is full and overflowing, you have extra to give to everyone else. Okay. I think the other part too is already make that decision already to be a consistent person. Like, you will persevere in love because you're worth it, they're worth it. And the reason for that is that we have this eternal perspective that our joy will be greater with more unity, more love, more oneness.
I can share. I've
Yeah, Lucy.
definitely seen a really big change in my relationship with my daughter here in Canberra. She's been through a lot, and I've really intentionally just made that decision just to love on her, not be offended with stuff that comes back sometimes, just because of where she's at. And the more I've done that, she has grown so much. And sometimes I've just about said something, and then she said, "You know what? This is da 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 da." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that was exactly what I was thinking." So she's come right around, and just things are really going well for her. And she's just needed that space. She's needed to be able to vent. And I kind of had to learn that lesson. Okay, so just clarify: are we just dumping, venting, or is this
right? Yeah.
Because that really helps, because she's got no husband to at the end of the day you come home, she's just got nobody, so that's who I am.
Yep.
And yeah, that was really important for me to learn, to not be offended and just let her get it all out. And then she's a smart, intelligent girl. She's working it out for herself, and things are really coming together this year.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's so.
And our relationship's just so much better as well. She trusts me more. When we try and tell people what to do, that you lose trust.
Yeah. Well, because it seems like you're not trusting them.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you come across as, well, did you know this? Did you know this? Or remember this? Remember this?
You should do this, or you should do that.
Yeah, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Oh, hi, Heather. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So yeah, when you I think it's almost like micromanaging. It sends a message that you are not confident in them, and they're not confident in you, and so they don't trust that you trust them.
Yeah, and we hold back their growth. They need to experience these things, as hard as it is for us to watch sometimes. But yeah, I'm really proud of her. She's doing incredibly well.
The thing that that came when you were speaking is that you've learned to be confident in her, right?
Yeah.
So welcome Heather. Heather's from Canada here. We're just talking about how we can speak with more confidence and increase our power of persuasion without being manipulative, because we want to help people heal and find their peace. But I think there's a culture that we need to just move away from, of just like telling people what to do, and not letting them explore and use their power of choice agency. So here's our discussion. So we've recorded the first part of it. So yeah, you can listen to it when you get a chance. I just feel like that confidence comes from the understanding that they're intelligent children of God too. And you are confident in yourself because you figure stuff out. And because you have a strong relationship with God, God has given you truths. So you know that if they can awaken to who they really are, like their true identity, then they'll be able to connect with God. And once they connect with God, they'll be able to receive all of those, wisdom, light, knowledge, and truth, right? So that's where our confidence comes from. It's not that, oh yeah, she's made some good decisions here. That's we will make great decisions and we won't, but that's conditional to our current level of humanity. So yeah, be objective, love unconditionally. All right, start with where they're at, what they know, what they're familiar with, so you can speak to that, and then connect them from that to where you want to take them. Right. I just wanted to share some scriptures, and this is from the Book of Mormon, for those who don't know, and it's the second book of Nephi's second chapter, and it's second Nephi chapter 4, verses 19, and this is a prophet, and he's just reflecting, and he's just like most of us, going, oh, I wish I was better. Right. So he says, and when I desire to rejoice, my heart groaneth because of my sins. Nevertheless, I know in whom I have trusted. And he continues, my God hath been my support. Right. So if we have a strong relationship with God, he will be the ultimate support. And he hath led me through mine afflictions in the wilderness, and he hath preserved me upon the waters of the great deep. And listen to this. He hath filled me with his love, even unto the consuming of my flesh. So that's what we're talking about. Like when we lack love for others, is probably because we haven't sought that consuming love from God first. Because when it's consuming and it's overflowing, then we have extra love to offer other people. And so we don't need to wait for them to change and not be annoying anymore. We need to do the work by, attending to what we need to do with God, just kneeling, praying. I tell my kids, like, have you wrestled? Have you struggled to feel God, to talk to him? Because I said, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. And you need to put in the work, because it's sort of like peeling layers and layers and conditions and attachments, and just cutting it all off. And then it's you and God, and it's just, no interference, right? No static, no nothing, just you've got that connection. So, for me, I'm confident. I'm like, well, keep trying, go back and do it some more. Yeah. And, a little bit more here. I just wanted to share that, the power of the heart. Our heart is the compass, right? And I told my dad this yesterday, and I said, look, I feel like, because God is intelligent and loving, he sent us here with this compass, right? When we have this connection to him, this heart compass works. And it will always lead us to a space where we will learn. Maybe it will be challenging, but we'll still learn, but it will eventually lead us to a place of happiness and peace, our ultimate joy, right? Anyways, in 2 Nephi 4:23, behold, he hath heard my cry by day, and hath given me knowledge and visions in the nighttime. And I tell my kids this, I say, well, talk to God and ask him for dreams. Ask him to tell you stuff in your dreams, or, as you wake in the morning, you have inspirations. So tell them stuff that they can expect from God, because from your experience, like, don't give them all the solutions, even though you know stuff, because, your solution may not be as good as what God says. Or maybe it'll be the same when, if you have the same inspiration. But, I tell my kids that, I have some ideas I can share with you later. But first of all, I'd like you to go and talk to God and ask him to give you visions and dreams, and tell you in the morning, right before you wake up, when your body is nice and relaxed and your mind is, untroubled, right? Because you've slept through the night, okay, and it's all released. Yeah. So that's kind of how, we encourage them with our power of persuasion. Okay, just telling them our experience, giving them lots of confidence. And in verse 24, he says, and by day I have waxed bold in mighty prayer before him. Yea, my voice I have sent up on high, and the angels came down and ministered unto me. I feel like we can qualify for angelic visitations. We don't need to think, oh, who am I to have this experience? Who are we not? So, I just tell my family and friends, like, just ask for, the dreams and visions and angels even to be with you. Why not? Okay. He talks about how his heart weep in sorrow. When I talk about these negative emotions that we inherit and we carry from generations, I kind of explain it like this. I say, look, our ancestors, when they are tempted, right? They misinterpret their situation, and they don't know that their situation was for their own good, and they hold on to that misinterpretation, and it is passed on. So it's them, unintentionally listening to Satan, right? And we all experience that temptation. And so what we need to do is just undo it, like intentionally get rid of that programming in our hearts. Verse 24, it says, and why should I yield to sin because of my flesh? Yea, why should I give way to temptations that the evil one hath placed in my heart to destroy my peace and afflict my soul? Why am I angry because of my enemy? Yeah. So it's kind of like what we do. We ask, why? Why do we have that? Why do I feel this way? And then you will discover the answers once you start asking why, right? Why am I angry? Because I'm afraid that, they're going to hurt me. And why am I afraid to be hurt? And it's just, just keep on digging, and then realize that anger hides all these fears. Okay. Also, what I learned from this verse is when you're not feeling peace, well, it's because we're listening to Satan and him telling us how to misinterpret our situation. Right? Oh, this. Well, this means you suck. This, whatever it is that he's telling you to think, it's just, making you misinterpret that, situation, experience that you're experiencing. Yeah. So that should be a clue anytime we feel this lack of peace. So, when my kids are sad or they're telling me things, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And can you see why and how that you've gotten yourself to this place where you don't feel peace? Yeah, I think this, I think I'm a failure. I think this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's still right there. Help them explore that. Yeah, and then, what do you think is the solution? Yeah, to rebuke Satan, right? To adopt more light. So in verse 28, he says, awake my soul. Like he's like telling himself stuff. Like we do that too. We have this positive self-talk sometimes. We're like, no, 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 I want to do this. I can do this, right? Awake my soul, no longer droop in sin. And just for our listeners and our viewers, sin doesn't have to be like, murder, theft, and all that stuff, big stuff. It can just be, not listening and hearing the voice of God and just kind of, because we fear, we're not confident. Okay, just be little things like that. Rejoice, O my heart, and give place no more for the enemy of my soul. Right? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're weeding out, because we gave place to the negative beliefs and thoughts. Yeah. And he says in 30, rejoice, O my heart, and cry unto the Lord and say, oh Lord, I will praise thee forever. Yea, my soul will rejoice in thee, my God, and the rock of my salvation. Beautiful. Yeah. So here we are. We must be intentional, about what we want in our hearts. And we recognize that this heart compass is a little bit, it's got a little bit of a, malfunction, or something, because we've put some negative programming in it. And so we just needed to peel it off. And that's the whole gist of what we do in energy balancing, because we go through life and we get experiences, we feel certain emotions, and we're like, whoa, pause. What is this? I'm going to use the power of my agency in the name of Jesus Christ, and then remove this from myself and perhaps from generations, if I find that it goes all the way back to, so we have to follow the root to the tip of the root where it started, and then remove it intentionally, just speaking it and intentionally releasing that energy. Okay, and it makes huge differences. It doesn't have to be bells and whistles and big. It can be just, why do I feel this way? And oh yes, I do have that feeling. And then go, oh, is it mine? No. Oh, it's generational, father side, mother side. Okay, it's mom, 1, 2, 3, 4 generations back. I can see that. Yep, my mom's family came from this situation. All right, ancestors, we're going to let this go now. And here's the positive reason why we should. And thinking back, maybe at that time they were struggling and it was easy for them to misinterpret their situation. Instead of it being for their benefit, it was, they're thinking, oh, I was punished, or why people, I'm not loved, or I'm not blessed, or whatever we do as humans, and just release that. And then test to see if it's gone. Yes, it's gone. And then, what can I do to positively reinforce this new belief, right? It could be smelling an oil, using an oil, and then, saying this one affirmation, maybe 2 affirmations. Yeah. Any thoughts, any inspirations that you want to share? Any comments? So once we start to weed out all the negative from our heart, right, we need to remember to keep the heart open and ask God to speak through us. So as we fill our souls with love, and we're good with ourselves, when we desire to serve others and speak to others and help persuade people to positivity, for truth and unity, you need to allow God the free flow of your mouth through your heart. So he inspires your heart, and then you can interpret it into words, into that English language or whatever language we speak, that free flow. And we cannot edit it, because if you can honor God's words and not edit it, he will continue to use you as a mouthpiece. I will tell you now, I haven't spoken so much Vietnamese in years, and I didn't know I knew certain words. It's just, for me, it was I felt like God was speaking through me. And I could feel that it's affecting and touching my dad, especially, and my mum. You know, when I was telling her, "Oh, that's not tactful," and she did not feel offended. She was just, you know, so happy that I helped her, and I did it in a loving, loving way. She just was just being so happy. So yeah, we we edit the Lord's words when we're scared of what people think and how they might respond. But what if God needed to shock them a little bit? Yeah, you know, because we're hoping, oh, I'm just going to say it and oh, it's going to be great and everyone's just be happy. Maybe they won't be happy, but it's not our job to edit that. Yeah. Once you're good at that, you practice that over and over again. It's you know, becomes this immediate skill that you can conjure up and channel and say, Lord, speak through me. And then you can actually do it on demand because you're so inspired. That's been my experience. Yeah. And I'll tell you that if you have thyroid issues, right, you know, that's about speaking, right? Your energy in the throat, it may improve. Yeah. As you allow that energy flow freely without stopping it, holding it back. Even your lungs, your breath will be deeper because you're not holding your breath. Yeah. Any thoughts or comments?
I might just add to what I was sharing before. It might not be right on point, but just to give an example of, you know, having gone through what I've gone through with my daughter. We had a really close friend, very close friend of Arnley's, come and spend a night with us on her way. She's a psychologist and she's sort of travel psychologist. And she's very much aware of Arnley's situation. And just, we were talking about Avi's going to high school this year and it's literally just across the driveway. She walks across the driveway from her apartment and there's the high school. And we're just discussing, you know, Avi having the key and going home for the first time and being in the apartment until Arnley comes home. And she was all about the fear that, you know, Stephen will rock up. He will come. He will try this. He will try that. And it was just, even I started to get a bit sucked into this fear of we've got to protect Avi. We've got to make sure she never has to walk home on her own, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, she was really making a point of it. And then Arnley went home with Avi and she called me later and she said, Mum, I have to trust Avi. She knows exactly what to do. I asked her what she would do if her dad came to the school, and her answer was absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I trust her. And I just felt this calm spirit on the way home that told me, do not live in fear.
Mm-hmm.
You will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, gosh, I felt so good after she called me because she was exactly right, is to trust your Father in heaven. You have been so blessed to have this apartment that's right next to her school. Mm-hmm. And because Avi's been given that chance to be responsible, and, you know, she checks in with her and I check in with her when I get home from work, and she's just rising to the occasion. She is organising all her school stuff for the next day. She's being really responsible and she's loving. It's changing her. She's just growing up and she's loving feeling responsible. So I was just so proud of Arnley because she said, you know what, I just didn't feel right about what Sally was saying. And I felt really prompted that no, you cannot live in fear. Mm. She is an intelligent kid. She knows what to do and she'll be okay. And I felt absolutely at peace. You're dead right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. When your heart is not at peace, right? That's when you're like, okay, what's the matter here? Because it could be like, oh, be careful, this, and then you still feel that peace because the Lord's like directing you to change. But yeah, well, when you start feeling that peace again, then it's like, yep, I'm on the right track and I don't have to make up new things. You know, we're very creative, aren't we, to be scared about.
Oh, sure. We've lived in fear enough. Don't need any more of that.
Yeah. I always laugh about, the tale of Despereaux and how the father tells his son, there's so many things in the world to be scared about. Don't you have some more fear? It's like, what parent would do that? But yeah, the rising to the occasion for Avi is that she is now able to have more autonomy. She owns her agency more.
Yeah,
See?
absolutely.
Yeah. So she gets to do that. This is a side joke. One of the things that we were talking about in the staff room, just the funny jokes that we've heard over the years, and not intentional. So this kid lives across the road from the school, and they come late nearly all the time, and they live across the road. Anyways, and we were like, what did you put down as an excuse for why they are late? Well, traffic. It's like, that's silly. Yeah, anyways, we just had a good laugh. So hopefully she gets on time to school on time. Yeah. I'm glad it's so many blessings. We're just reading about that in Nephi, and he lists out all his blessings, and he's like, why am I sad? Yeah. So we need to do the same as well. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share? How did you feel about today, and the things that we can do to be more persuasive without being manipulative or nagging? What do you think?
I think you nailed it.
I hope that you feel more confident in yourself, and our viewers and stuff. Just not to give up, and just because that person seems defiant or push back, we have so many ways that we can change and be better mouthpiece and instrument in the Lord's hands. Yeah. And I do have a lot of hope in people. And I guess sometimes it may come across as, oh, you've got rose-colored glasses, like, wake up to reality. They're never going to change. They're never going to. But, which would you rather? Would you rather just have this little, glimmer of hope for people, or just think that they're goners? So that's a miserable way to live. And I experienced that a lot, in my work as well. That kid is not going to amount to much or whatever. I'm like, I can't believe you're telling me this about a kindergarten kid. What? Yeah. So anyways, some people do see the world through dark glasses. Yeah. So Debbie, are you having a hard time unmuting yourself?
No, I just have a lot of background noise right now.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, oh, what are you looking for with the button?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so Debbie says, meet people where they're at, let God feel us, so that we can be more loving. Choose, go ahead, Debbie, please. You can say it, please.
Yeah, just it's like recognizing where people are, because sometimes we think they should be here, up here, and they're just like, we need to respect where they're at in their journey and invite them to rise. So
yeah,
I think we make that more possible when we are filled with God's love.
Yeah,
first, and then
yeah.
and then we just use our agency to choose to have hope and choose to have love for them.
Yeah, I love that. Like what you're saying, Debbie, is like sometimes we have an agenda, we have an idea of where we want to take them, but maybe that's not where God wants them to go yet, or at all. Yeah. So if we fill our souls with His love and His direction, then we set ourselves aside and be objective, be outward thinking, and just do what is best for them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that allows us to be unattached to the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like we're doing what we feel inspired to do, but like what happens with all of that is really up to them and to God, right? Not up to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes they have to go around a little bit and experience some things and that we don't realize that they really need, because later on they experience the juxtaposition and they have a great appreciation of all of these blessings that they will receive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So, ladies, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for joining me, and we can talk off the record.